Hello everyone. Thank you very much for joining us today for this online webinar, Cross-Sector Partnerships for Social and Business Benefits. My name is Morgan. I'm the webinar series manager for social marketing at Griffith, as well as a PhD candidate and a research assistant. Before we begin today, could I please ask that you mute your microphones just to reduce any background noise? And if you haven't already, please turn off your video feed. This is just to ensure that we maintain streaming quality throughout the session. If you have any questions during today's webinar, please feel free to enter them into the chat box, and these will be addressed during the Q&A session at the end of the webinar. There'll also be some polls today, which we'd love you to participate in. The results of the polls will be shared. However, they are completely anonymous, so we won't be able to see who's voted for what. Today's webinar is being recorded, and everyone will receive the link to the video in an email from me later today. So without taking up any more of your time, it is my pleasure to introduce your presenters today, Samir and Alex.
Thank you very much, Morgan. Good afternoon and welcome you all for our session on cross-sector partnerships. We will specifically focus on partnering with corporations, the partnerships between corporations and nonprofit and government sector. We especially focus on the corporate social responsibility activities that corporations undertake and partner in those circumstances. But before we go any further, let me introduce myself and Alex, and then the center that we represent, and then we will jump into the topic. So I am an associate professor in social marketing and the managing director of social marketing at Griffith. I do research, training, teaching, and community activities related to social marketing style behavior change activities. Alex?
Hi, I'm Alex. I'm a researcher at Social Marketing in Griffith. I'm also a practitioner for about 15 years experience sort of working in the commercial district. I also, my key focus in terms of research is predominantly corporate social responsibility and social initiative programs. So it's great to have you all here today and to learn about cross-sector partnerships.
Thanks, Alex. So a few words about our center. We are the world's largest university-based social marketing center. As a group of 40 plus individuals spanning from academics like myself and PhD students like Morgan and Alex, we also have a lot of research assistants, postdoctorates, and staff members who help us create, design, deliver attractive, effective, and efficient behavior change initiatives. So as a group of university-based center, we teach, train, conduct research, provide master classes like this one, webinars, and then design and deliver behavior change initiatives using social marketing tools. We have our own toolbox, which we call CBE, Co-Create, Build, and Engage, to understand the target audience very, very closely and other stakeholders, as well as design and deliver those initiatives based on their feedback so that the possibility of adoption of the new behavior is higher. To do so, we are extremely research intensive. So we undertake both traditional self-report style studies such as surveys and experiments, as well as direct observation studies such as EEG and eye tracking that use physiological measures. As part of the CBE process, we are especially proud of our creating collective solutions approach, where we bring together our target audience and other stakeholders together right from the start so that they are partners to understanding the problems and designing the solutions. Just to highlight, we have undertaken community-based social change activities for 3 of many clients, but I'm just highlighting 3 here. For Queensland Catholic Education Council, we have educated more than 5,000 teenagers in Queensland about the risky consequences of drinking, and to make this stimulus or this information package, behavior change package, attractive, we have used VR technologies and used gaming scenarios, house scenarios to involve and engage our teenagers. Similarly, we have worked with Red Lake City Council to reduce interactions between dog and koalas so that fewer koalas are attacked by dogs. So dog owners then get involved in this campaign, and they are told to train their dogs so that we maintain our population of koalas. And then finally, our center has undertaken initiative to reduce food waste, which has received a good reception across the state of Queensland. So today's learning objectives are to understand 6 kinds of corporate social responsibility activities that corporations undertake. We will try to highlight the benefits and the challenges that they face while undertaking such initiatives, but we also look at what are the challenges and the advantages for their partners, especially nonprofit and the government sector. And then throughout this process, we'll try to highlight the do's and don'ts that nonprofit and the public sector should undertake and should take care of, so that they can maximize the benefits of their partnership with corporations. While we do this, towards the end, we will highlight the case study of Fonterra on how they have worked with the school system in New Zealand to provide and deliver milk to school children. So before we jump into those initiatives, I wanted to run a poll. Morgan, if you can help us run this poll, where if you can please answer these questions, that would be great. We just need 5 more people to answer. All right, so 9 of you voted, and majority of do see a lot of value of partnering with corporations, and that's good to know. Okay. As you know, that cross-sector partnerships are like crossbreeding. If done well, they can be fun. They can be very, very effective. For example, I'm just taking a very different tangential example. When a Caucasian British woman marries an Indian man, a Bollywood star is born. Her name is Katrina Kaif. However, when things go wrong, and they do many times, we'll end up having distorted figures or distorted outcomes and results as a result of the cross-sector partnerships. So in other words, cross-sector partnerships requires special care and attention for it to work. And when that is done, there are enough research studies that show that such partnerships actually deliver better outcomes than if you're not partnering, or if you're partnering with people of similar sector. So as we jump into the 6 initiatives, I wanted to highlight the source from which we have gotten these activities. This is based on a well-known book by Philip Kotler, David Hezekiel, and Nancy Lee, where they list the 6 kinds of initiatives that corporations undertake, where they are directly and consciously trying to bring about positive social change. In terms of sector partnerships, we decided, and while talking about corporations and the nonprofit and public sectors, we decided to specially focus on CSR because it is in those activities that corporations are specially on the hunt for looking for good partners. So we understand that there are situations other than CSR where cross-sector partnerships do take place between corporate and non-profit and public sector. We can discuss those during Q&A session, but for this presentation, I'll be focusing on the CSR context. So the first one is perhaps the simplest one, which is cause promotion, where corporations pick a cause and issue and try to create awareness, try to highlight the gravity of the situation, and in doing so are trying to influence the consumers, their own consumers and perhaps other stakeholders, to understand the problem and change their attitude, and if possible, adopt the new behavior. For which, of course, consumers have to develop an empathy for the cause. And some of the behavioral outcomes could be donate money to the nonprofit or the charity, or donate hours in terms of volunteering. A good example within Australian context is Harley Davidson working with this campaign, annual Pink Ribbon motorcycle ride in Sydney, to raise money and awareness about breast cancer research. Now, their objectives were clear. They were trying to increase their women consumer base, which was neglected in the past. And so breast cancer topic was a very good topic to reach their target audience. However, it is clear that there are some limitations to this initiative. So while it is relatively easy to enhance awareness, it brings about high visibility, brings about immediate connection or association between the company and the cause. We know that cause promotion at best only creates awareness, which need not influence behavior. A behavior change initiative requires much more structural changes if we have to convert awareness into behavior. And such initiatives tend to be short-term, which increasingly consumers are demanding that they should be longer-term. A second initiative is cause-related marketing. This is a new avatar of philanthropy. So in this case, or in these initiatives, companies pick a cause, but the donation that they promise to the cause is sales linked. In other words, they go to the consumer and promise them that if you buy my brand, I will donate a percentage of proceeds to this cause. It is wonderful for consumers because they see this as a double whammy. They can purchase the brand and also indirectly contribute to donation to the cause. This is especially effective when we are talking about luxury brands where consumers feel guilty of having purchased it. And so they can reduce their guilt through this indirect form of donation. Two examples are highlighted on this slide. One is in last couple of years, the dairy farmers have donated money to drought relief fund every time consumers were told that they would purchase their product. Another one is an ongoing campaign from Zamrero, where every time you purchase a meal, they donate food to the people who need that in the developing world. This campaign style is very effective for companies because it is short-term, it is time-oriented, it is very bottom-line oriented because you can see the effect of this campaign on sales before and after that short time period when the campaign takes place. So this has elements of the traditional sales promotion campaign. But like sales promotion, the disadvantages are it is short-term, that people tend to then get focused on that promotion and forget about the brand itself, which can hurt the brand value in the long run. And then such campaigns also bring in highlight the scrutiny of how much money are companies really spending on promoting the cause versus promoting themselves through this campaign. And so this donation cost versus promotion cost, that comparison starts happening and that can put some companies in trouble. One last advantage of this campaign is that the outcomes are measurable, which is rare for many of the marketing initiatives. The third type is social marketing. So this is the third of the marketing initiatives of the 6 ones. The remaining 3 are the non-marketing initiatives. Social marketing is by far the most behavior oriented initiative. So if companies want consumers to adopt the new behavior, social marketing is definitely a winner. It works much better than cost promotion initiatives. So here companies are promoting the behavior and creating environments and structures around it so that the new behavior becomes attractive, that the benefits of adopting this new behavior are higher than the costs of adopting, and they are higher than the benefits of the current behavior. An example is a campaign that Colgate did last year right here in Brisbane City, along with TerraCycle, where they had installed kiosks at several places in the city, and people like you and me could donate dental products, which otherwise we are unable to do so in the normal recycling stations. So this initiative goes beyond cost promotion. It has definitely higher influence on attitude and behavior, and hence the social outcomes, than just promoting the cause and creating awareness. As a result of actual behavior change, consumers tend to associate stronger brand perceptions. But of course, such a campaign requires much more work and resources than cost promotion campaign, which can put a damper on the company's resources in general. All right, now let's go to the 3 non-marketing style initiatives. So the first one is one that is quite popular, corporate volunteering, where companies donate employee time, the paid time, to a cause. Either they give employees the freedom to decide which cause to pick, where to volunteer, which day of the week they want to go, or I have also seen situations where companies decide where their employees should volunteer, and then they send them in groups on a specific day, let's say Friday morning for an hour or so. This has tremendous human resource benefits because employees are happy that they are able to donate their time and services to a cause. It's also a wonderful way to develop team bonding with their staff, their colleagues outside work environment. And so that leads to higher employee satisfaction, employee commitment, so on and so forth. Of course, these initiatives are expensive, and like many other CSR initiatives, the link between business activity, business bottom line, and CSR activity is questionable, is hard to establish. The 5th one is the oldest form of corporate involvement in social change, which is to donate money. These days, corporate philanthropy as an approach is getting less popular. The reason being its negativity, which is the link between the corporate donation and the business bottom line is very weak. Also, the kind of publicity you get for writing a check may not be always guaranteed and is quite short-term lived. Because of these situations, companies are actually diverting their philanthropy dollars to cause-related marketing initiatives, which is a smarter, more strategic way of carrying out CSR initiatives where you still do donate money, but you are doing so in return for consumers buying their brand. So yes, of course, it develops or it generates positive publicity and brand perceptions, but compared to other CSR initiatives, it is weaker. The last one is perhaps the most comprehensive one, the most important one, and the most impactful one, where companies actually change the way they carry out their business in such a manner that they either prevent causing social problem or they're actively trying to reduce it. A good example is where McDonald's has promised at the end of 2020, they are going to take out all the plastic straws from their offering. Just one simple policy will have a massive impact on the amount of plastic that we Australians will consume when we visit that store. And that's the power of a corporation. These are huge entities. They have a huge impact on our environment, on our society, and not just in terms of the amount of impact, but also the number of people it impacts. And so when they change even one policy, it can have a lot of impact on a variety of situations in terms of size and the value. And so it's important that we continue to pressure corporations to adopt more socially responsible business practices. It has tremendous positive impact on human resource, on environment, on health. It changes brand reputations very, very strongly. And in the long run, there will be cost savings. The negativity is, of course, it takes much more effort, much more resources to change the policies, to implement such initiatives. They can be expensive in the short run. And perhaps at least in the short run, these business benefits may not be delivered as a result of these activities. If you consider all these initiatives, what comes out based on a lot of research that a lot of scholars have done, and I have contributed to some extent to this, is when it comes to CSR initiatives, consumers want companies to carry out such CSR activities that are relevant to the company's core business. I will talk about this point a bit later, but I will still repeat that statement, which is, for a consumer, it has to pass the smell test. It has to make sense. Okay? Number two, it has to be substantial. It cannot be one small local activity done once in a lifetime and then expect that consumers will reward the business for doing it. Increasingly, consumers want businesses to carry out something that is multi-year, longitudinal, and that's also my fourth point, but also substantial in terms of number of dollars spent, number of stakeholders influenced, and at the same time, strategic in terms of, does it, again, going back, does it make sense to company's core business? Although I've said that the initiative should be substantial, the impact has to be felt at the local level, which means the communities have to see the impact in their own life. So and this locality will depend on, let's say, the production area of the company, or the distribution area, or the consumption area of the company. Whatever it may be, companies are rewarded when the impact is seen at the local level. And as I pointed out earlier, the initiative cannot be 1 year or 2 year long. If a campaign is strategic, it is close to its company's core business, then there's no reason why companies cannot carry out their CSR initiatives over multiple years, because their business is running for multiple years. So that ends my quick summary of the 6 kinds of initiatives and the goods and the bads about these initiatives. So having been exposed to that in the last 10-15 minutes, I would like you to fill this poll and show your feedback on which one do you prefer from your personal or the organizational point of view. All right, thank you very much. I'm assuming you can see the poll results. As you can see, social marketing seemed to have more traction than others. No one seemed to follow like corporate philanthropy. I think that's a sign of the times. By the way, we also gave you the option of other, which is and if you thought that none of these above options were good enough, you can share your thoughts in the chat box or when we have a Q&A session towards the end. So what do these initiatives mean for the nonprofit and public sector? What are the benefits and challenges they should expect from such partnerships? One simple fact is these benefits and challenges vary by the type of CSR activity. Not one activity is going to deliver all the benefits you're looking for. Perhaps a diversity of style of partnerships may be necessary. But in general, what comes out, and I'm just highlighting a few key ones, is the fact that you should be learning about the consumers, the target audience from the companies. And normally, I don't see this being exploited sufficiently enough. Companies have a lot of up-to-date information about a variety of segments that they are targeting as part of their business. So for example, no one understands the youth better than Coca-Cola, Instagram, or Pepsi. Similarly, no one understands a middle-aged woman better than Kraft Foods or Kohl's or Woolworths. If we partner with corporations and if you ask them, while we carry out these initiatives, can you also share your information, the insights you have about your consumers? They may not have to be up to date. They may be 1 year old, but the 1 year old data is still very good from a public sector or a nonprofit sector. And so learning about audience is a key benefit that we don't take enough advantage of when we partner with them. Second is management style. You may have problems with their philosophies, some of their corporate bottom line orientation, but there's something about the fixation for outcomes, fixation for achieving those outcomes, fixation for using strategies that deliver those outcomes. Those aspects are worth learning and adopting. Don't have to copy and paste, but adopt them to our sector. That can be learned through such partnerships. And then of course, your visibility goes up because they put in money to promote the cause, and that can help you as a partner. Dollars come in, you get higher number of volunteers as a result of partnerships, so on and so forth. But there are two major disadvantages of this. One is you are likely to harm your reputation by, if I may use the phrase, sleeping with the devil. If the corporation has negative reputation in society, then it transfers to you, and that can have a problem because at the end of the day, what really matters to us as nonprofit and public sector employees and professionals is our reputation. That's what makes us stay strong in the eyes of our stakeholders. That's one. And second thing is, as soon as consumers and volunteers and donors realize that corporations are helping the department or some nonprofit organization, their enthusiasm to donate might get depressed. So what are the do's and don'ts that the nonprofit and public sector perspective should be looking at? Number one, and this is the point I have highlighted before, enter a partnership with a company which passes the smell test. It has to make sense. It has to make sense which is consistent with the company's consumers, company's strategies, company's mission statement. There are stakeholders. When the alignment is strong, the partnership is stronger, the effectiveness, the potential of effectiveness is higher. Secondly, just because you are a nonprofit or a public sector employee or a professional does not mean your status is any lower than the company's. I still remember a statement made by an executive working for Special Olympics International in the Washington, D.C. office, where she said that, yes, my partners may be Fortune 500 companies, but I'm a Fortune 50 social marketing brand. And that's the confidence that I like to see in other nonprofit and public sector professionals, is that they have a lot of reputation, a lot of positivity in society, and they should use that to their advantage. Ensure synergy in strengths. They bring strength, so do you. Your groundedness to the community, your passion to change society is your strength. And that should be combined with corporate management style, their resources, their audience insights. And together, I think social change initiative can be very effective. And lastly, I will always say this throughout my life as a social marketer, all initiatives should, at the end of the day, try to change behavior of the person on the street or the midstream audience, such as the doctors, the pharmacists, or the retail sector, and the upstream, the policymakers, government policymakers, as well as corporate executives. Behavior change solves social problems, and hence that focus should not go away. The don'ts are: do not partner with someone who just for the sake of money, because you know what, casinos have money, Philip Morris has money, mining companies have money, but it has to make ethical sense for you. If you should feel comfortable partnering with those corporations. Don't skip the conversation on social outcomes. That's very important. Many times, nonprofit and government professionals land up accepting what companies are expecting from them and delivering to them. And that can take them away from what the nonprofit has promised its volunteers, its donors to carry out. I remember one particular initiative where a famous company, I will not name the company, wanted to go after the target audience of its own products, which was taking the nonprofit away from its own stakeholders. And it was jeopardizing the mandate of the nonprofit. While they were getting a lot of corporate dollars, it was hurting their mission. And that's the fine line that they have to be careful about. Thirdly, don't work in silos. Working together throughout the process is more important than having the first meeting and the last meeting and nothing in between. Campaigns are effective when continuous partnerships with clear synergies and close interactions take place. And lastly, that goes back to my earlier points in do's, which is you have reputation, you have strengths, use that to that advantage, be assertive, and be an equal partner in leading the conversation with those companies. So among the 6 initiatives, I would like to highlight corporate social marketing as one of those, which is an application of commercial marketing techniques to solve social problems. It is powerful because it changes behaviors, and we can change behavior because we really understand our target audience, where we provide our solutions such that the target audience perceives them to enhance benefits, reduce barriers, and those benefits are seen as immediate, guaranteed, and attractive. And they're attractive because they're seen as fun, easy, and popular. It's easy for me to tell you that your solution should have these features. It's much more difficult to actually design and deliver them. And that's where working with the target audience and other stakeholders becomes paramount. And so when you carry out a social marketing process, you undertake a variety of steps, starting with understanding the situation, understanding the stakeholders, understanding our target audience, analyzing their benefits and barriers, and then creating strategies that, as I said, they are attractive in terms of enhancing benefits and reducing barriers. And throughout the process, of course, we are intensely research-oriented, both formative at the start and evaluating and monitoring towards the end. So as an example of a good corporate social marketing effort, we want to highlight the case of Fonterra, and I bring in Alex to tell us more about that initiative.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Samir. That was a great roundup of how to approach CSR and all the different strategies that you can use. Look, it's no secret that the Business Roundtable and World Economic Forum, they begin to realize, and companies all over the world realize, the link between social impact and economic benefit. So pairing up with a CSR initiative, in terms of that, it's a real win-win opportunity, both for the NGO or your organization and the corporation. Why I've chosen Fonterra is it has great stakeholder engagement. It has great stakeholder dialogue, integrating stakeholder values, and also does social accountability extremely well. So why bother about CSR? Well, millennials and Gen Zers, now this is from a business perspective, right? So I'm kind of flipping what Samir said in the first part of the presentation, is that millennials and Gen Zers, they want to see more CSR. 77% of consumers said that they would choose to purchase something that actually pay more for something, sorry, that the company demonstrates that it has being a good corporate citizen or has good community responsibility. Another reason why I want to expand on Philanthropy is because it's a multi-layered approach. It's quite a unique way of doing a behavior change program. It's actually lasting for about 8 years. So similar to what Samir said before, if you have a program that aligns with the core values of your consumers, you can actually run this program for a substantial amount of time. It's not a 3-month initiative. It's not a 6-month initiative. It's not a year initiative. So when I talk to people about CSR and different ways you can go about it, I always refer it to, it's almost a little bit like the frequency in terms of marketing and salience. If you have a program that works well with your consumer values and your core body constituents actually that relate to that program, then it has this, it can actually stand the test of time, which is very similar to this program I'm talking about today. Also, I'm not sure if you're aware of this, but there was a review back in the state of CSR back in 2017, and these social development goals were created. So Philanthropy is really focusing on the third social sustainability goal, which is good health and well-being. Samir, please, next slide. So if you don't know who Philanthropy is, oh, Samir, do you want to flip, sorry, to the next slide? Here we go. Cool. Thank you, Samir. So Fonterra is a multinational dairy cooperative, right? They operate both in New Zealand and in Australia, and they have product lines in APAC, in Americas, and in Europe. Obviously, in the Australian market and the New Zealand market, the common products we've all heard of is Bega, mainland cheese, Western Star butter, and Anchor milk in New Zealand. Just the next slide, Samir, that'd be great. So before we play this video, it's a 30-second commercial for Fonterra Milk in Schools. But before we go into the video, I just want to quickly explain a little bit about it. So this program essentially delivered milk to schools before the school day started. And they had a designated milk drinking time with the children. And the whole purpose of this was to increase calcium intake with that particular program. But it's really interesting because Fonterra Milk for Schools program is not only getting children to drink more milk, it puts emphasis on the nutritional power that it has. And it also does a multi-layered approach with recycling and sustainability. And the whole idea of this program is to have a long-lasting, create a long-lasting difference for children in well-being and nutrition, and also teaching them values about sustainability. So this program really it's quite interesting because it focused on sustainability, it focused on nutrition, and it also focused on recycling. So it does a sort of 3-prong approach. And it's quite often in programs when you put, so for example, they're delivering milk cartons to kids at school. So what's going to be the counter effect of that? So you're going to have more trash, you're going to have more wastage. So instead of just dealing with the wastage, they created a recycling program for Fonterra Milk at Schools. Of that as well. And the key points of this is that they work with farmers. They work with the education body over there. They also work with, obviously, the local schools. And they created this almost like, I would say, exemplary program. Samir, could you please hit play on the video now? Thank you.
Sorry, it's taking time.
That's right. We'll give it 5 more seconds. If it doesn't link, we'll just roll on.
Okay.
Just skip.
All around around the country, Fonterra farmers are helping New Zealand kids by doing what we do best. We're sharing the natural goodness of milk by making it available for all primary age children every school day. It's our way of helping Kiwi kids live up to their potential.
All right, so I guess this program, it had quite an impact. As you probably can see in the next slide, the program actually ran in 70% of New Zealand primary schools. It actually last year, it did over 20 million packs of milk were delivered to children. And this, I think it happened over about 1,400, well, over 1,500 different primary school or different school students, primary school students in the previous year. There's 140,000 benefactors from this program, and 10,000 farmers contributed to this program. And even sort of like Richie McCaw, so if you're an Australian rugby supporter, you probably won't really like that name very much, but he was also an ambassador to the program and sort of spoke about the program. So there was quite a lot of emphasis around this program of how well it did. In its early initial days in 2012, when it first started up, they had about, I believe, 112 schools. And then the year after, they went up to about 1,100 schools. And now they're about 1,500, I would say, dare say 1,500 schools now. And the program was a success because what they actually saw across this 8-year period was a 17% increase of calcium uptake. Now, for those who are in the behavior change space, and we know that changing behavior is a very long process and it's incremental, sometimes only by 1%. So seeing a 17% increase of calcium intake for kids across this period was a major win for Fonterra as well. So next slide, please, Samir. Sorry, everyone, Zoom only allows one person to control the slides, so we'll get there in a second. Now, another reason why Fonterra did really well, it's a two-way relationship, right? So they're both stakeholders to each other. So schools are actually required to apply for the program. So there is merit to actually having an exchange proposition between the corporation and the organization that the corporation is helping out with, right? So there's a bit of a buy-in value there. So Fonterra actually established a relationship with schools and had a mutual exchange. So the program, you know, they required the school to actually apply. So there's some sort of exclusivity there. Fonterra makes the contract, visits the school site, and then sets a delivery schedule. So they actually work with the school, like when can we deliver the milk? When's the best time? They provide refrigeration, and they create an actual planned drinking time for the children with a nutritional expert. And it also creates a recycling program. Now, what I really like about this program is they also did to measure and evaluate. So again, a lot of us who've worked in this space, sometimes getting that on the ground data is extremely hard. So what they actually did here is that the school self-reported through a portal about calcium intake, what was drunk, what was not drunk, how much was recycled. So they actually had some measurable data to actually show that they're actually making social impact as well. Next slide, Samir. So now we're talking about it's a layered program, Milk for Schools. And I touched on this a little bit before, but when you develop a program, there's going to be a counterpoint to that program. So for example, and I mentioned this before, if you're going to deliver 20 million milk cartons to kids all around New Zealand, what's going to happen with those milk cartons if you don't have a recycling component to this program? Now, not only did the kids get to know about, okay, this is the best way we need to actually drink milk and understand the nutritional values of that, but they also taught them about the power of recycling and in respect to that. And it sort of pivoted the program down this path of okay, now let's do an education process where we actually fold the carton flat, we drain the milk out, we put it in the recycling bag, we compact it, and then we make new products, which goes back to the school. So there's a bit of a cyclical environment that's actually happening there. And you think about it as a kid in the classroom, you're seeing something go from your drink to becoming a school textbook. That's just amazing, right, for them. Now, this program's actually finishing up this year, at the end of this year in New Zealand. But what they've actually done is they've actually partnered with another organisation, so Kickstart Breakfast, which is with Sanitarium and with the Ministry of Social Development in New Zealand, to actually do a very similar program, but instead of just doing milk, they're actually partnering to do Weet-Bix sort of breakfast, Sanitarium cereals, and Fonterra milk with that as well. So it actually, you know, is really, it's evolved so much that it's morphed into another program. And that other program's actually been around for quite a substantial amount of time, I believe from 2013. So that's pretty much it in a nutshell. But what I really wanted to highlight, next slide, Samia, please, is that by layering these sort of programs, for example, the community for benefits of recycling and healthy habits, you have greater outcomes. They set clear partnership requirements to make sure they are delivering social outcomes and actually making sure they actually have social impact. In the world of marketing, commercial marketing, we always have to cross-check and evaluate. So this is what they did in their program as well, just to make sure they are having that impact and pivot when required. And they also did that evaluation process where they're actually self-evaluating, again, making an ownership on the actual schools to do that as well. Next slide, Samia, please. So if you want to learn more about how to build a social program and sort of build corporate social marketing programs, essentially, that's kind of where we sort of specialize in. You can actually get a masterclass from us, a half day or a full day that has a range of different solutions that we can go through. Generally, we offer sort of like peer-to-peer learning experiences. We obviously talk about sharing your previous and potential initiative experiences. We go through a lot of case studies and apply those concepts. And we sort of, at the end of the day, try and create a meaningful experience for you so you know the best way, and also learn from probably programs that have done an exceptional job about with CSR, with cross-sector partnerships to deliver real social impact. Next slide, please, Samia. So I'm not sure, first of you, you're probably all meeting me for the first time today. I'm actually the co-chair of Change 2020. So Change 2020 is our flagship behavior change conference. Now, this year we're going to run another face-to-face conference in South Bank, Brisbane. So we realized, obviously, with COVID, that's not going to happen, but we also didn't want to give up on the conference. So we created a series of online free events with keynote speakers who are leading in the industry. Now, all these events are free. We just had our recent change event last week, and we had over 600 registrants. Now, the great thing about these events, when you actually register them, very similar to your masterclass, you will also receive a link afterwards so you can actually watch this at a later date. Next slide, Samia, please. The upcoming events that we actually have, we have driving systems change. This is all about systems thinking, and that's going to happen Thursday, the 15th of October. And that runs for about 1.5 hours. And we sort of identify factors that might not be immediately apparent with social programs and talk about how systems thinking can be applied to greater consensus and identifying leverage points to deliver change. Then we're moving into another program in November, which is Saving Our Planet and Making Change Happen. This one goes for a 2 hour. We've actually got 5 presenters speaking in this one, all from reputable backgrounds, or again, leaders in their field regarding these topics. And we sort of look at solutions to deliver real world impact in this one. And how can we achieve change across health and environmental issues? So this is Saving Our Planet and Making Change Happen. And last but not least, we are going to go into the world of how to build a following on Thursday, the 3rd of December for about an hour and a half as well. And we will investigate how to maintain a following and I guess leveraging of existing networks and building a loyal tribe as well of followers, and how can we get community and our advocate for exactly what are we doing and get behind the movement. All right, so I guess we've wrapped up there. So if you have any questions, it'll be great to hear if you want to put them in the chat box, and we'll be more than happy to answer them.
Any questions, any comments about what you heard, or any clarifications? We are happy to have that conversation.
Even if you just want to quickly just...
We have a question coming in. Could you explain social marketing briefly again? Sure, Chandra. So social marketing is, unlike social media marketing, is a behavior change technique where the marketing principles are uh, what is their demographic and psychographic profile, what is their reason why they carry out the current behavior, and based on intense research, we try to understand what would influence them to adopt the desired behavior. And rather than just communicating about the benefits of the desired behavior, we actually tangibilize the desired behavior by offering what commercial marketers commonly call the 4 Ps, which I will translate into benefits from desired behavior, a tangible form of desired behavior, a strategy that reduces the barriers, increases convenience to ensure that easy access is made available, and finally, all this package is persuasively communicated. And so in Australia, for example, efforts done by Woolworths to promote healthy food and try to position themselves as a company that cares about health of its consumers is an example of corporate style social marketing initiatives. But of course, government and nonprofits are the main actors of social marketing initiatives. Worldwide, social marketing has been used primarily to promote family planning through promotion of condoms and other contraceptives. So I hope that answers your question. Joanna asks, thank you. She liked the presentation. Will you share your presentation? Yes. So Morgan will send you a link to the video after this event.
Do I take any questions?
If you want slides, let us please let us know, and Morgan will be happy to send you slides. I'm keen to know about the masterclass. Nicole, are you asking about the masterclass based on what we presented today, or masterclasses in general, what we offer from our center? I have an upcoming partnership and want to know what you do. Excellent. Okay, so based on the topic that we have covered today, we are happy to always offer masterclass. So what we have done in the past when we offered such a masterclass is we made a video like the one that you just saw today, and so that we don't have to spend time introducing you to the basic topics. So once you see this video, then we ask you to submit a case study. So we ask you a few questions that you would answer, which will give us an idea of the initiative that you have undertaken or you're about to undertake. And so then when we organize such a masterclass, and let's say we have 10 participants, all 10 of them submit such a document to us, which we accumulate and try to understand and build our actual masterclass presentation based on that. We also make you participants present their work for a brief period of 10 to 15 minutes at the masterclass itself, so that you not only get our feedback, but also the feedback of other participants at the masterclass. And then at the actual masterclass, we have a mixed method approach where we go deeper into behavior change initiatives on cross-sector partnerships with a slight bias towards social marketing, because that is our area of expertise. I have spent 20-25 years in this area, so my bias does come through. And then we go through activities, brainstorming and breakout activities on trying to apply those exact aspects to your initiative, so that when you leave the workshop in the end, you have some clear goals and ideas that you can apply to make your initiative more effective. So that's how we spend our one day at the masterclass. But we are all, as Alex said, we are flexible. We can do it for half a day. We can do 1 day. We can extend beyond that. Joanna has a comment. It's always hard to substantiate the business benefits. Yes, although increasingly corporations are becoming more demanding, that they want to know what does it mean to my business when I do CSR. And hence they are coming up with their own templates. The big ones, Procter & Gamble kind of companies, have templates that they bring to the table when they enter such partnerships. So
And
you're
I
right,
guess,
Joanna.
I guess it was about 2010 when they brought in ISO, I think 2600, where they started actually declaring what actually is the international term for corporate social responsibility. So for the last 10 years, we've seen an uptake in this space, and there's been more social impact in this space. And to that point I said before about millennials and Gen Zers, like that particular demographic or that generation, they actually are now social consumers. They generally look for products that, I was saying, as that stat before, 77% of them look, if a product was to have, let's say, a social outcome, they're probably quite more likely to pay an additional percentage for that as well. So there is that coming out. It's still, I guess, maturing in a sense that way.
And to add to Alex's point, sorry, when the UN Sustainable Development Goals were formed and 180 member nations signed on it and committed themselves to meeting them by 2030, just a few years later, there was pressure on corporations to join the bandwagon and be a partner to help countries achieve those SDGs. And so many of those corporations have joined those membership teams. And so you see when you go to their CSR websites, they do explicitly mention their commitment and attempts to achieve those SDGs, which is a wonderful news. Now, how much of that really occurs? How much do they really try to achieve, or is it greenwashing? Those criticisms still remain, but it's still a development in the positive direction because more companies are committing, and some of the genuine companies are doing honest, genuine work to achieve those outcomes. So I'm hopeful and always optimistic about that. Rainbow washing, Joanna calls it rainbow washing. And so there is that, no doubt about it. And I'm not going to be blindfolded to those criticisms, but I will also be a bit more optimistic by saying there are some companies who are doing it more often than not because of the commitment to SDGs. Nicole asked the question, does it cost money to do the masterclass? It does. Yes, it does, but we believe our cost is reasonable. And we try to work around your requirements. If you have a bunch of your colleagues wanting to be a part of our workshop from the same organization, we can always discuss about what would be a reasonable cost to deliver that, if you want to do it especially tailored to your organization.
And I guess the tailored approach, we're very flexible because we know every organization is different. There's some different sets of core values. So it is something that we've done in the past that we do obviously edit and adjust to what you actually require to be done.
Yes, Joanna does agree with my optimism about the SDGs. Thank you. Okay, I'm seeing that we are nearing 3 p.m. Brisbane time. So I don't want to keep people tied to our session for too long. So at this point, I guess we can wrap up and ask Morgan to share her concluding thoughts.
And just before that, Morgan's going to obviously share the presentation. So if you did come in late and you didn't see the whole presentation, that will be emailed to you shortly.
Wonderful. Thank you, Samir and Alex. And thank you everyone for attending our webinar today. As Alex mentioned, you will all receive a link to the video recording in an email from me later today. In that email, you'll also receive a link to our evaluation survey. So if you can spare 2 to 3 minutes, the survey really shouldn't take any longer than that, and we would really appreciate your feedback on the webinar. If you are interested in attending any more of our online events, please keep an eye on our events calendar. I've pasted the link into the chat box there. You can also access it on our website, Social Marketing at Griffith. So there you'll see our remaining free events for this year, our Change Conference sessions that Alex mentioned earlier, as well as our masterclasses. So thank you all again for joining us today, and we hope to see you again soon. Thank you.
Thank you very much for joining us.